Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest. Absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old-timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs.
Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. Most exciting news that I can share with you this week is that I am beginning to grow out and proof of concept phase of really what's probably going to be not only my next big project, but sort of like the most important thing I ever do. I have come up with, it's at least 10 years in the workings. And I've been working on this design and tinkering with it here and there and thinking about different things and different elements. You know, permaculture is a design system, first and foremost. And I think I have come up with a design system that could be implemented nearly anywhere in the world that would allow people to grow all the vegetable food and fruit, that they need on any space, no matter how small it was. And even if there was, if it was really hot or there was a lack of water or anything, the only, I'm not sure it would work at the North Pole or something, but just about any temperate region and really desert areas and such. And it's going to be a way that people can provide food for themselves. And of course, animals, livestock, small livestock could be incorporated into the system. I'm just really looking at, vegetable and legume and such small grains production right now. Really so cheaply that if I could get a charity or a government organization behind it, it would be like food for life for a family. For maybe $10 or less. So, I mean, you can understand why I think this could be the most important thing I ever do. I want to put this together. I want to put the design together. There will be a book in it, as I grow everything out and I can, tinker with the things a little bit more. I'll put everything in a book and take pictures and everything, and then, maybe even start putting together kits. And like I said, I'd really like to work with churches and such to get food to everybody who needs it, and to help even right here in America with self-sufficiency. This is a perfect design for preppers and homesteaders, but I mean, even if you didn't have any ground space at all, I'm designing this so things could be grown vertically. Straight up, right? So it's, it could be up against a wall. It could be hanging from tree limbs. It could be on a roof. I mean, this is going to be really, really interesting, and I'm going to keep you posted on that. But I'm excited because things are, I'm beginning to, be able to have, I'm starting to be able to touch the system that I've been working out in my head for years. When I wake up at night, this is like, I'll lay there for 2-3 hours just going through each element of the design system and refining this and simplifying that and thinking about, well, what about this addition? Do I want to add this or not? And I should have proof of concept within 2 years. And God willing, I'll be at a place where I can have my school open as well. I want to teach you all herb classes. I want to invite you, probably 4 times a year to come take an intensive herb class or plant walks probably on a monthly basis. Teach permaculture, teach some of the like homesteading primitive skills, wood carving. I mean, who knows, right? All the things I do. Cooking classes. I would love to teach some cooking classes, teach people to cook from scratch, gardening and everything, foraging. So, God willing, by that time, when this is ready to release, I will have a facility, I guess I should say, a place where you can come out and hands-on see what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and take that concept, that design concept, home with you, and probably seeds and everything you might want, and start implementing it. And yeah, I think yeah, I'm excited. That's all I can say is I'm excited. So let's go ahead and jump into the plants. And the plants we're going to talk about, we'll start with, as usual, our spring foraging plant, and this is a really good one, and it's really one of my favorites. This comes from my book, the Spring Foraging Cookbook. It is Cardamine pratense. Now, I decided to use the Latin version of the name because it has several colorful colloquial names. The flowers really perk up a salad. It's a wild edible that has a strong flavor. I wouldn't include more than a few blossoms. It's a bit peppery. So I would use it in place of watercress. Watercress does grow where I live, but often, the streams are of a questionable quality. If it's runoff from a Christmas tree farm or there's cattle, drinking upstream, you got to be real careful with watercress. You can get liver flukes. So I use this one. Nasturtiums I would put into that category. Wild mustard has a nice peppery flavor. And I tend to be drawn, toward those peppery flavors. So this is one of my favorites. And really, few things combine together as well as watercress and boiled eggs. So I came up with an egg salad recipe using this plant. And, what's better than a fresh wild food salad on a spring day with a nice glass of wine? Ingredients: a handful of cardamine pratense. One of the popular names for this plant is cuckoo flower. I like that one a lot. But many people call it different things. Just look it up real quick. Google it. It's Cardamine pratense. You'll probably find that's growing around you right now, and you've just kind of overlooked it. So let's get a handful of cardamom. Let's cardamine pratense, 3 boiled eggs. Let's say 1 to 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise, depending on your taste, and of course I prefer fresh homemade mayonnaise. About a teaspoon of pickle relish. I go for more the dill pickle relish. If you like the sweet pickle relish, like most people do, hamburger, hot dog relish, whatever, go for it. But, my tastes run more to the sour, savory, bitter, peppery than they do the sweet. So I make, dill pickle relish. About a half teaspoon or so of mustard, salt and pepper to taste. And I do like anchovies. Just a couple anchovy fillets, a little of the oil from the can. Again, that's to taste. If you don't like anchovies, skip them. I like them. I like sardines. If I don't have anchovies, I'll use sardines. They're not as salty and they're not as strong a flavor. And, if you haven't had sardines in a while, and like, as a kid you didn't like them, or maybe you had like a brand that wasn't really good. The brand I like to buy is Polar smoked sardines, actually. Those are really my favorites. Or, there are many more like really high-end gourmet sardines, believe it or not. In France, they like sardines in butter, and in Italy they like sardines in olive oil. And they get serious about their sardines. We tend to think of them as just a cheap lunch for a working man. And, he probably can't even eat them inside because his wife's screaming at him to get those stinky things out of the house, right? Well, actually, they're really nutritious and they're really tasty. And if you haven't tried sardines in a while, and this is somewhat true of anchovies as well, that's a much stronger flavor. Get a good brand of sardines, okay? And give them a little taste. If they are a little oily and strong, Don't worry about it. This is a tip I got from George Herder, and it works perfectly every time. Dump them into a bowl, pour some vinegar over them, let them stand for a minute, drain off the vinegar, and they will taste clean and fresh, and it takes away most of the smell, and they won't taste oily or funky or anything. And then have them on a salad because, a little vinegar always goes well with a salad, vinaigrette or whatever. Really very nice to have sardines and boiled eggs on a fresh greens salad. So, I basically medium hard boil my eggs. I don't like a real hard boiled egg. I honestly, well, in this case, I'm not going to want it runny. Now, I like a poached egg, but for this, I'm going to look at just a bright yellow yolk and soft enough to kind of mash up with a spoon, not crumbly. So anyway, well, the best results really for boiling eggs, a couple of tricks most people don't know. Take a thumbtack and poke it into the bottom of the egg, and as it boils, the sulfur gas will escape. That boiled or rotten egg smell, whatever you want to call it, that can turn the yolk green. Do that, and you're going to have a nice bright color and a better flavor. And then it really depends how long your eggs take to boil based on your elevation. The the atmospheric pressure actually affects the temperature at which water boils. So how long it takes to boil your egg, really I can't tell you because you're going to have to experiment with it and figure it out for your elevation. I mean, it's totally different for me if I'm in the mountains at 5,000-6,000 feet elevation, if I'm, down visiting family in the sandhills at like, I don't know, 30 feet elevation, totally different. So I cannot give you a boil your egg for 10 minutes, But that's about how long it takes me in the mountains, about right around 5,000 feet. And yeah, it's about 10 minutes. And sometimes I don't go that long if I want my yolk a little bit softer. But regardless, put your eggs in a pot, fill with cold water, bring to a low boil, and cook until done to your liking. Cool, peel, and mash up the eggs. I use a fork. Tip for peeling your egg shells off of your eggs is to peel them under cold running water, under the faucet. They just slip right off. Piece of cake. I just mash them up with a fork, mix in the mayo and mustard, chopped cuckoo flowers or cardamine pratense, chopped pickle relish, salt and pepper to taste, any herbs you like. I mean, I usually toss in some parsley, chives, dill, marjoram. I mean, it just depends on what herbs and spices are in the garden and what I may have already added to the pickle relish, because I often put a lot of dill and such in that pickle relish. I like a lot of dill. I'm kind of a dill fanatic. Anyway, like I said, I like to mash a couple canned anchovies in there with a little bit of the oil. I think it's fantastic. If you don't do that, I would toss in a dash of Worcester sauce. Worcester sauce, or let me see, Worcester sauce. that's actually the proper way to pronounce it. Is Worcester sauce, not wash your sister sauce. It is actually made with anchovies. So there is that slight hint of anchovy flavor in Worcester sauce. And I love it. I love the stuff. But it's a strong flavor, so I just go a couple of dashes. And just mix it in there, mash it up. You can absolutely substitute watercress or nasturtium for the cuckoo flowers or pratense, whatever. I like to serve this as like an egg salad on a sandwich. Just toast and butter some bread and really good. A little heirloom lettuce, gives you that kind of, or a mildly bitter green. Really nice contrast, like dandelion greens, chicory, something like that. Sometimes I add a slice of tomato and bacon. This is, I will usually eat it as a salad. I will put that mix of like egg salad on top of a tossed salad, or I make it as a sandwich with some lettuce and tomato between a couple of slices of toasted buttered bread. And either way you go, it's just fantastic. Frankly, it's especially with tomato and bacon and some maybe some nice fresh herbs from the garden. That is probably one of the best sandwiches you will ever eat, and it's not a sandwich you can buy in any shop or store. You're going to have to make that one homemade. And wow, it's really, really good. really good. So now let's get into the medicinal herbs. The first one's real short. The second one's going to be much longer, so let's just get this out of the way. Ludwigia palustris. Now, palustris is Latin for swampy, so you're going to look for this one near the water. It's also called marsh seed box or water purslane. And there are at least 4 varieties of Ludwigia that grow in my region, but I only found a tiny little bit of documented information on the medicinal use of one, and it came from Plants for the Future. They just said that medicinal use of water purslane used in the treatment of pulmonary tuberculosis, asthma, and chronic coughs. So I think it's a very useful plant, even if it's, only has that one use for the lungs. When you can't breathe, you're not doing well. Now, the other one that has far more documented use is one that might surprise you. It is Lithium salicaria, better known as purple loosestrife. Purple loosestrife is a hated weed in most of America. I think it's a beautiful flower. It likes to go around ponds and such, and everybody from your state agencies that talk about pond management is going to want you to eradicate your purple loosestrife. Here's the deal. Plants that grow around ponds are not a problem. The problem is when people mow right up to the edge of a pond. When people mow up to the edge of the pond gets filled with all kinds of contaminants, runoff from the ground. That's when the algae grows. That's when you have fish kills. You want a nice, idyllic, clean pond with good fish that your kids can swim in and you can enjoy. Do not mow to the edge. Leave buffer zones. Riparian buffer zones are what they're called. Just let the grasses and weeds grow up for 2-3 feet around the edge of the pond. I mean, if they get really tall, cut them down halfway. But that is going to be a barrier to prevent that runoff that contaminates your pond, and that's really what loosestrife wants to do. And it's also really good for wildlife habitat. You're going to have a lot of birds and rabbits and all kinds of stuff. Nesting areas for ducks. I mean, not mowing to the edge of your pond like you live on a freaking golf course is the very best thing you can do for your pond. And remember, don't ever fish or anything on a golf course pond because they're full of toxic chemicals. And really, if I had my way, we wouldn't have golf courses. I don't mind if somebody wants to play golf, but North Carolina has thousands of golf courses and very little accessible land for most people to hunt and fish in much of the state. I'm not going to say all the state, but I think there's a lot better use for that land. But it's up to a property owner to do what they want. I do believe in property rights. I oppose regulation, but I will give you this advice: do not mow to the edge of your pond. Leave a buffer zone. All right, so now let's talk about loosestrife. And it's one of the prettiest flowers. I mean, it really is such a very pretty wildflower. Gerard lumped loosestrife in with willow herbs, and I can't be sure of his identification, okay, because willow herb is epilobium, and this is lithium, 2 different plants, and I can't tell which one he's talking about at different times. So I'm going to skip Gerard. We'll go to Culpeper, who wrote of yellow loosestrife, which is a little less common around here. We mainly have the purple variety, but this is actually loosestrife. This herb is good for all manner of bleeding at the mouth, nose, or wounds, and for all fluxes of the belly and bodily flux. Diarrhea or menstrual bleeding or any kind of discharge, basically, is what that means. Given either to drink or taken by clysters. It's sort of like a suppository, basically. It stays also the abundance of women's courses. It is a singular good wound herb for green wounds to stay the bleeding and quickly close together the lips of the wound if the herb be bruised and the juice only applied upon it. See, for that reason alone, it's a useful herb. I mean, if you get a cut and there was loosestrife around, just the fresh juice of the plant can help close the wound and reduce bleeding. That's to me, that alone makes it important. Let's see. He said it is often used in gargles for sore mouth and also for the secret parts. He means the genitals. The smoke hereof, being bruised, drives away flies and gnats, which in the nighttime molest people inhabiting near marshes and finny countries. He means watery areas. So again, a good reason to have loosestrife by your pond is because you can burn it and it will drive away flies and gnats. Now, I have not tried it against mosquitoes, which is, of course, a very big issue for us here in the South, but and no-see-ums and all that. But yeah, we're definitely worth giving it a shot, right? So of the purple variety, Miss Grieve describes it as a handsome perennial growing 2 to 4 feet high. And yeah, I think it's absolutely one of the prettiest flowers. I mean, it's like, I don't know, purple loosestrife in my area is like bluebells in Texas. I mean, it's just one of those things people really ought to be appreciative of. We ought to have festivals for it instead of trying to spray everything with Roundup and eradicate it and make everything look like a dang golf course. Anyway, she says the name Lithium is from the Greek luthron, named for the color of the flowers. She said it had a mucilage and astringent principle, medicinal actions and uses, although scarcely used at present. Loosestrife has been highly esteemed by many herbalists. It is well established in chronic diarrhea and dysentery, and is used in leukorrhea and blood spitting. In Switzerland, the decoction was used successfully in an epidemic of dysentery. It has also been employed in fevers, liver disease, constipation, and cholera infantum, and for outward application to wounds and sores. It has been stated to be superior to eyebright for preserving the sight and curing sore eyes. Now that's really something, okay? Eyebright is a wonderful herb for eyes. It reduces inflammation. It actually kind of astringes that tissue and can sharpen your vision a little bit. It can help prevent cataracts. It's a wonderful herb, but it can be very hard to find because it's just a tiny little flower and grows in the mountains and is easily over-harvested. Where you find it, you're going to find a lot, so it's okay to take what you need. But of course, it's one of those things like if everybody did that, there wouldn't be any. Well, according to Miss Grieve, right in the 1930s, purple loosestrife was superior to eyebright. She said the distilled water being applied for hurts and blows on the eyes and even blindness if the crystalline humor is not destroyed. I think she's basically talking, the lens. That would be, crystalline humor. Humor in this case would just mean a tissue that would be clear that you could see through. So anyway, an ointment may be made with water or combined with butter, and it's unsalted butter, she specifies, and boiled together to heal ulcers and sores. If washed with the water or covered with the green leaves, with the leaves green or dry according to the season. So you could wet dry leaves and use them the same way. A warm gargle and drink cures quinsy and scrofulous throat. And she says other species, Lithium hyssopifolium, that means a hyssop-leaved loosestrife, has similar properties. Now she does mention Lithium verticillata, and she says that's commonly called swamp willow herb. She says has similar properties, and that was likely the one Gerard was referencing, but as I can't be sure, I just skipped him. Mexican Salicaria is regarded as astringent and vulnerary. Loosestrife is the common name for members of the genus Lysimachia. John Kehoe says of the Irish tradition, purple loosestrife, the distilled water is good for sore eyes. A salve made from the leaves is good for preventing inflammation of wounds. For the yellow loosestrife, he says it's good for stopping all flows of blood, such as from the nose, excessive menstrual flow, and also sealing a wound. Turning to the German tradition, Brother Aloysius said purple loosestrife, used for dysentery, diarrhea, fresh wounds, ulcers, and especially recommended for chronic diarrhea. Now here in America, in early America at least, through about 1900, loosestrife was used by doctors, pharmacists, herbalists. King's American Dispensatory of 1898 says, loosestrife possesses considerable mucilage, rendering it a demulcent. That means it softens the skin, essentially. While at the same time, it has tannic acid to give it astringent properties. A decoction, if used freely, has been serviceable in various affections of the bowels where this class of remedy was indicated, as in, various type causes of diarrhea. We don't need to get into all that. Externally, it is very beneficial as a local application in chronic ophthalmia, ulcers, so used on the eyes again, ulcers, and some forms of cutaneous or skin disease, also in leukorrhea, glut, and chronic gonorrhea, all women's issues, being used either as a wash or in the form of a poultice. Okay. There was one thing I did want to mention when they were going through the various types of diarrhea. If you ever look at old herbals, you'll see something called summer complaints. Summer complaints were diarrhea. Apparently, before we had clean drinking water and a good way to preserve food, when the weather got hot, people got sick, which stands to reason. So, modern times, not used as much, but Plants for Future says a purple loosestrife. It is an astringent herb that is mainly employed as a treatment for diarrhea and dysentery. It can be safely taken by people of all ages and has been used to help arrest diarrhea in breastfeeding babies. So the mother taking the plant could actually help the breastfeeding baby not have diarrhea. Those herbs are always valuable to know. I mean, when kids get bad diarrhea, it can be deadly. That fever spikes and their electrolytes are down. I mean, you always got to. In young children, minor ailments can get serious very fast, and we need to have on hand what we need before that happens. So it can also be used to treat heavy periods and intermenstrual bleeding. Modern research has shown that the whole plant is antibiotic and to be particularly effective against the microorganism that causes typhus. So it's another reason you might want to have it on hand for bacterial diarrhea. Obviously, it has antibiotic properties as well as helps stop the diarrhea. The flowering plant is antibiotic, highly astringent. Hypoglycemic means it lowers blood sugar. Styptic stops bleeding. Vulnerary, wound healing. It is valued as an intestinal disinfectant, especially in cases of enteritis. An infusion is used internally in the treatment of diarrhea, internal bleeding, excessive menstruation, etc. The flowering plant is harvested in the summer and can be used fresh or dried. Externally, the plant is used as a cleansing and healing wash for wounds, sores, impetigo, eczema, excessive vaginal discharge, vaginal itching. The powdered plant is used as a hemostatic in case of severe nosebleeds. The stems are regarded as gum stimulators and are given to children to chew in order to strengthen weak or bleeding gums. So, and everybody's just going around spraying the stuff with Roundup. I mean, come on. It's a pretty plant, and it's like a medicine cabinet in itself. The Peterson Field Guide says tea made from the flowering plant, fresh or dried, is a European folk remedy. Demulcent and astringent properties used for diarrhea and dysentery, used as a gargle for sore throat and a douche for leukorrhea, and a cleansing wash for wounds. Experimentally, the plant extract stops bleeding and kills some bacteria. Botany a Day says medically the plant is highly astringent, 12% by content in the leaves, so lots of tannins in this plant, and slightly more or less in other parts of the plant. Tea of the plant is used internally in the expected ways for diarrhea and excessive menstruation and internal bleeding. Externally, the tea is used as a wash for wounds. The dried powder of the plant was used for stop bleeding. And finally, I checked the physician's desk reference, and the PDR for herbal medicine says the drug is used internally for diarrhea, chronic intestinal cataract, that's congestion, and menstrual complaints. Externally, in the treatment of varicose veins, very interesting use, bleeding of the gums, hemorrhoids, and eczema. No health hazards or side effects are known in conjunction with the proper administration of designated therapeutic dosages. See, I wanted to include that because another myth that has been spread by our state agencies that want to eradicate purple loosestrife is that it's poisonous. Well, according to the physician's desk reference for herbal medicine, it's a fairly safe plant. So y'all, I guess we can wrap it up there. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next time.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.